Hey guys, welcome to the chat that's big and fat. My name's Dan, and I'm on my own again. So, Di was meant to come down this week to record a podcast, but he didn't. So, so I'm kind of like scurrying about trying to get something together just so I can drop it, because I've had people messaging me saying like, Dan, I missed the podcast. I've had a few people actually, more than I would expect. So, thanks very much for the support. Anyway. Some news though. We are working on getting a portable setup done. So right now I've got the infrastructure in my house to record 5 people at once. But then outside it's a little bit more tricky. So like we're working on, like I've got 4 mics now, 4 decent mics. So we can kind of this year start focusing on getting guests in, getting some really interesting people in to talk to. Which is going to start very soon. So that's going to start with a portable podcast kind of setup where we're going to have a portable sound recorder, and then we can kind of do it that way. So that's coming soon, and I'm going to start looking at heavily getting guests on. It may just be friends of mine that I think are interesting, or it may actually be actual like guests that you may be interested in listening to that you know about. So we've been speaking to Stephen Mio. So I don't know if any of you guys know who Stephen Mio is, but he's from like he plays like a comic relief Welsh guy in a lot of TV shows. He was in High Hopes. He was one of the youngsters in High Hopes. So anyone from like the mid-noughties would know him from that. If you're especially if you're Welsh. It was a BBC show about an old guy called Mr. Applewhite, who sadly died. Like the end of last year, I think. So we've been speaking to him to come and get him on because he's quite funny. And I think if people see who he is, then they'll know who he is. I also want to see if I can get Shafe down here, and I want to, or at least me go to Shafe. Either way, I want to see if I can get Shafe on here, and I want to see if I can get Brett Johns in for a chat. Because if anybody knows, I like everybody knows. Anyone who knows me knows I love MMA and like combat sports. But mostly MMA. I don't really enjoy watching boxing. I don't know why. Unless it's a really, really riveting fight, I don't enjoy boxing. It always feels limited to me. And as amazing and technical as really good boxing is, I just find MMA way more interesting to me. So there's a decent fight coming up the day that this gets dropped. So I don't know. I lose a lot of sleep to MMA. Put it that way. Because I'm a chef, I work weekends. So sometimes. Sorry guys, I'm still ill, right? I can't remember a day where I did not have this stupid tickly cough thing at the back of my throat. It's been months and it's really annoying me, but we'll get back to that. So I'm going to do like this really stupid cough to like this like that, just to kind of subside the tickle at the back of my throat. So yeah, like basically on a Saturday or a Sunday now. So the UFC stuff like is always on in America, and it's normally Vegas, so it's like the East Coast of what am I saying? East Coast, the West Coast. Sorry, really bad geography there. The West Coast of America. So it's really late as fuck. As in like if you watch the whole card, the prelims and all, you're pretty much up all night until like 6 o'clock in the morning. So I do that at least once a month. But my rota is I work at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning. So normally what I'll do is I'll be in work at 8 o'clock on the Saturday, and then I'll work 9 hours. I get home for about 6-ish. I always tell myself that I'm going to go for a nap so I can get ready for it, but I never do. So I'll be awake from 9 o'clock in the morning. I'll go, and then the fights normally start at about 1 o'clock in the morning. So I should have had a nap by then, but I wouldn't have. I've only ever had that nap once, and it fucking killed me. So I stopped doing it. So I was there. I would be there until I'd start at 1 o'clock then. So I would just jump on my PC at 10 probably just to keep me awake. Play a little bit of Ark Survival Evolved or something like that. And then I would go from 1 o'clock all the way through to like 6:30 in the morning, watching fights. And because you've been watching fights, you got a bit of an adrenaline rush by proxy, and you can't get back to sleep. You can't get to sleep initially then. So like what I would normally do is I'd normally try getting an hour before work, but I found that that's worse as well, because I could sleep through alarms and stuff. Because as soon as I hit that pillow, I'm done. So what I've started doing is just going straight through. So I'd go from like 9 o'clock on the Saturday morning in work, 8 o'clock in work. So I would be up from 7ish on the Monday until I went to bed on the Sunday. What am I talking about? Monday. From 7 o'clock on the Saturday, I would go all the way through until I went to bed on the Sunday night, with 2 of the busiest shifts of the week in that as well. So that's what I do. And there's one the Saturday that this drops that I wouldn't mind watching. It's not. I don't know if I'm going to stay up for it because it's like, yeah, it's a good card, but I don't know if it's worth like the actual agony and pain of the Sunday in work doing it. So I'm debating that. I don't know where this came from, but yeah, like, oh, that's what yeah. So I'm an MMA fan, so I'm gonna see if I can get like somebody like Brett Johns on, or kind of have a whole MMA show and see if I can get Jack Marshman on, and then I put my phone on silent. And that's kind of my angles for this year, is to get as many guests on as I can, so it doesn't get stale for you people. Even if it's people that you don't know, it's hopefully people that have interesting enough stories so that you are interested, if you get me. So that's kind of the plan this year, is to get as many voices onto this podcast as I can. There's a guy who I work with, Nathan, and I want to get him on just because literally he loves talking, and he loves everything. he can literally, like, I could bring up a topic. He loves politics, he loves science, he loves like literally anything, and you could talk about it, and you could have like serious conversations about it, really informative conversations about it. Like, he's the type of guy you'd love as a co-host, like. So I'm going to see if I can get him on soon. I'm going to see if I can get Josh back on, because we can kind of debrief. The first time he was on episode 6, we were talking about albums that were in the works, and now both of us have dropped it. So like the collab that we did, Dear Jim, that's being shared about quite well. I kind of like that that's being shared. Obviously Decade is finished, and he helped me in the beginning of that, and then I helped him with his kind of rap and writing stuff for his album. So yeah, I wouldn't mind getting him back on. So there's like 6 or 7 people that I think I could get on, and I want to get on at that time as well. So today's topic is something that popped up literally this week, and I want to just I haven't had a lot of time to think about it, and I haven't had a lot of time to look into it, but I do want to speak on this Liam Neeson thing. So Liam Neeson this week was having an interview for a film that he's doing where he plays a fucking snowplow driver, and somehow that chat I understand the segue into what happened, but the film's about a snowplow driver. Something happens to him and he seeks revenge, and in one of these kind of press junket type things, a woman asked him, she's like, so how do you tap into this revengeful or vengeful mindset? And she explained that she thought it was kind of a throwaway subject, throwaway question that wasn't going to bear many fruits. And he just said, well, let me tell you a story. So if you haven't listened to this this like soundbite, you probably should. Like, it's really like, it is shocking. I'll admit it's shocking, but I'm going to get onto my opinion of it quite quickly. So he said, let me tell you a story. And he says about 40 years ago now, right? So this is 40 years ago. Almost half a decade ago, right? So he would have been young as fuck. He would have been young, dumb, and fucking stupid. So 40 years ago, so either a family friend or a female in his family told him that she had been brutally raped. And one of the key takeaways from what he asked her, so he said that he asked her a lot of questions, but one of the question was, what race was he? And in that the initial interview, I don't think he said about any of the other questions. So this is why people have kicked up. He said, like, it came across just in that story where he was literally spitballing off the dome, may we add, like, where he said, I asked her what race he was, and she said black. So 40 years ago, he's just found out his family friend or his friend, or his family, I can't really remember, found out that she's just been brutally raped. Amongst the questions that he asked about this bloke, it turned out that he was black. That was one of the things that he took away, right? So, in a fit of rage, he went on this kind of spree where he went to black neighborhoods and he would wait outside pubs with a kosh, which is kind of like a telescopic baton type thing. And he would wait to be set upon by a black person so that he could kind of act out his revenge, knowing that that person had nothing to do with the rape itself. He was just prepared to just take his anger out on a black person, right? So, I mean, on the surface, that sounds fucking crazy. But then you look at the context of all of it, and I'm not saying the context of the act, because the act is abhorrent. Like, there isn't anyone that can that even himself, he is saying that the act itself was abhorrent, right? So, like, don't get it twisted that I'm saying that what he did wasn't wrong. But what, like, the context of what I'm saying is the context of the conversation about it. So everybody is saying that he's a racist cunt and blah blah blah. But this is my 2 cents on it. Let me take a sip of Yazoo banana milkshake. Not a sponsor. Right. So the context of it is he hasn't been found out anything. Like, nobody has dug into his past and found this out about him. He's decided that he is going to talk about it, and he is going to kind of, I can't think of the word, he's kind of denouncing himself for it. Do you know what I mean? It's not like he is trying to defend himself either. He is saying that in a fit of rage, he had an interview maybe the day after or 2 days after on Good Morning America, talking to a black woman, which I'm pretty sure was his PR guy trying to put his hair back in. But, so, not a black guy, a black woman. So he's talking to this black woman, and he isn't even trying to explain himself away from the fact that it is racist thoughts, whether he likes it or whether you admit it or not, it's racist thoughts, because he singled out a person to target based on race, not based on a crime that they had committed, not based on anything else other than race. He particularly went to high number of neighborhoods that had high number of black people, and he went there with a mission to cause violence, right? So that's wrong, and the backlash that he is getting is because that's wrong. But yeah, it was 40 years ago, and the guy has just literally brought it upon himself to tell people about these feelings he had, and then the aftermath of it. So he's been bearing it for 40 years. Do you know what I mean? And you can't explain away the fact that, yes, a black man could definitely have died or been seriously injured because of nothing that he did, because a white guy got angry about someone being raped. Yeah. And again, like I said, there is no explanation for that. There's no getting away from the fact that that's just not good. Yeah. But my opinion on it is, like, should it end his career now? I don't think so. I think the fact that he brought it up himself and he put it in the spotlight speaks about him. Like, speaks about the fact that I don't think anyone can be judged 40 years on from something. I don't feel like I should be judged for something I did 13 years ago. Do you know what I mean? Like, I did something fucked up 13 years ago. I'm not that person now. And when you have that perspective, when you have the perspective of, I did something really stupid when I was young, and then you grow up and you realize that that isn't even you anymore. The only thing you share with that person is the DNA. You share nothing with that person. And like, he is, you know, I mean, at worst, he's mildly intelligent. And no mildly intelligent person is the same person that they were 40 years ago. That doesn't exist. If you're the same person that you were 40 years ago, like mentally wise, as in your train of thought, the way you think, the way you process things, the way you communicate, then there is something seriously wrong with you. And he can be judged for what he did back then, right? He can, but he can't be judged in a modern context. He can't be judged as if he is that person now. You just can't, because he isn't that same person now. Because you grow as a person, you grow as an individual, and that's what's frustrating about this new age bullshit where people, youngsters mostly, people who are just in uni, and they just think that they can change the world, and like everybody's part of this massive kind of conspiracy to cause harm on everybody else, and it just isn't that way. Like, you know what I mean? They're going to grow up one day and they're going to become really conservative and they're going to think logically. But right now, they're causing damage. So this guy, he's probably set for life anyway. He probably doesn't need to work. But, like, I don't think his career should be ruined for something that he did. Well, or for something that he thought back. Everybody knows my feelings on condemning somebody for thoughts anyway. But for something that he did plan, but he didn't act out. So he didn't even actually commit the crime. Do you know what I mean? Like, if he had committed the crime, you have to pay for committing the crime. Like, there is no other way. But he didn't even commit the crime. So he thought about committing the crime. Guess what? I think about committing crimes every fucking day to somebody. Do you know what I mean? Like, if there was no police and there was no jail, I wouldn't have a lot of people around me, if I'm honest. Like, and should I be judged for things that happen in my brain? I don't think so. And yes, if Liam Neeson had said, I thought this 40 years ago, and I still think it now. Every time I walk past a black person, I want to smack his fucking head in because one of them raped a family friend 40 years ago. Then you'd say, well, your thought process is a bit fucked, mate, so how's about you stay out of society for a bit? But he isn't. He brought it to the table. He was the one who said, look, I did something fucked up, and I truly regret it. And he said he came back down to earth. He went to confession because he was brought up religious, and he kind of sought help. Do you know what I mean? And because he realized what he did was fucking nuts, and that speaks to his character, not the actual. Like, he came down to earth, and when he became more compos mentis, a little bit more logical thinking, a bit more grounded, he realized what he had done, and he realized how crazy and bad that could have been. And he said there was no violence, that the violence never happened. So that's kind of my take on it. I think, I feel like everybody's just like professionally angered these days, and I feel like there's no middle ground. It's like he's either racist or there's people on the other side saying he's not fucking racist. Like, that's it. And then there's nothing in the middle saying, well, he had racist thoughts 40 years ago, and then he grew, and then he got older. Do you know what I mean? And then he developed. He got less reliant on his anger and more on his logical thinking. And nobody's saying that. Do you know what I mean? He had racist thoughts. That, like, what happened is racist. He singled out somebody because of their race, not because of anything they had particularly done. So what he did was racist, yes. But you can't call him racist now. Like, you can't. He probably isn't. He was in a film, like Michelle Rodriguez said in an interview. Someone asked Michelle Rodriguez about it, and she said, well, he's not fucking racist, because in a film, he was like, if you are truly, truly racist, you couldn't fucking snog the chops off a fucking blackbird. You just couldn't, like, if you were truly, truly racist. And there's one film, Viola Davis, he's fucking tongue fucking earth wrote. And obviously, like, that's almost as good as saying, yeah, but I've got black friends. But I digress. This is my thing. I just feel like, yes, he had thoughts that were racist 40 years ago. That's half his life ago. Do you know what I mean? Half of his whole life ago, as in, like, if he lives till 80, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying it. Yeah, whatever. But when he dies, it would have been half his life ago. If you get me, it's a stupid way of putting it, but yeah. and he thought something that long ago, and he was going to act on it, and he ended up not. And now, 40 years ago, 40 years ago, 40 years ago, and now 40 years later, I was trying to say that, by the way. But yeah, he's thinking now that maybe, if I come out about this and I bring it to the media, I can kind of put it under a microscope where it's quite easy in a fit of rage, in a fit of primal rage, to do something really that stupid. And he's kind of, I mean, he said he's spoken to 2 other people about it or something through his whole life. So he's had this thing, this guilt, like, eating away at him. And you grow up, you get older, you get smarter, you get wiser, and you realise that things you did when you were younger weren't appropriate. And that's what I think has happened. And I don't think it should end his career. I don't think that it should negatively affect him too much. And yeah, that's kind of my take on it. I know I said that really quickly, and it didn't have a lot of content, but that was it. I just feel like everybody needs to put a bit more logic into every thought process that they have, Like, just think more logically about it. Don't feel like you have to have a 100% emotional response to it. It doesn't have to be 100% anger. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be 100% offense. It can just be that, fuck, man, he did something fucking dumb, didn't he? Do you know what I mean? Like, that was fucking stupid, mate. Liam, come here, mate. Come here. That was fucking dumb. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that could be it. You could say, and I understand there's a perspective of black people saying, but a black person could have died because of this, and I say, yeah, no, that's fair enough. But that person who was going to commit that crime doesn't exist anymore. He doesn't exist anymore. He grew up, he became smarter, and he became wiser. So should it affect him now? No. It should have. It would have. I totally believe that he should have affected him if he committed the crime. Yes, but a crime of thought isn't a crime. Sorry, do you know what I mean? Unless obviously your thoughts are still racist. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's a minefield. Look, what I'm saying now has probably offended about fucking 50% of the populace of people that listen. Well, not to listen to this. Actually, you're all probably pretty fucking sound. But if this was aired out to a country, 50% of them would be fucking offended because of logic. It's because I'm not 100% offended by what he did, and I mean the black woman that he was talking to on Good Morning America, she was cool, she was calm, she was collected. I don't think she harbored any sort of ill feelings towards him, because she thought with a logical head that so he brought it up, he brought it to the stage, and now he is willing to kind of, he knew there was going to be a backlash for it, but he was willing to do that to open up the conversation. And that's what you need to think about. The guy's a smart guy for doing that, because nobody was ever going to find out about that. He was never going to leak into the papers, so he was under no risk of getting caught for it, but he decided to say it anyway. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it, and that's my 2 cents on everything in life. Stop and think, and see that maybe your perspective could be wrong. So think it through before you start blurting it out. And yeah, I mean, it's quite easy to get angry at this. It genuinely is, especially if you're a black person. It's really easy to get angry at it. But at the same time, think logically and think to yourself, does the person that had those thoughts exist now? And I don't think that he does. I think that Liam Neeson... I think that Liam Neeson is a different person. He's a different human being. And like I said earlier, all he shares with that person that thought those things and did those things is DNA. That's literally all he shares with him. His mindset is probably totally different, and his thought process is totally different. So that's my 2 cents, guys, on Liam Neeson. I do want to bring up a little bit about Salah, the footballer who died in the plane crash, because they've just, I think this morning or last night, I think, they kind of what's it called? Fucking identified his body as Salah. So that's a little bit sad. I mean, I heard the radio tape thing where he was doing like a WhatsApp audio, wasn't it? Where he kind of said that he was really scared. Nah, fuck that. That's not nice, is it? I think he kind of knew that he was going to die, poor fucker. And yeah, so that's some sad news. I did get a text literally just before I started this podcast from Damien Kemney. So he texted me saying, let's have a look, yeah. Basically, I think he's back in the country soon. Oh, he just texted me back right now. So he said, hey Dan, just let you know, I'm highly likely to be back in the UK for 3 weeks, April, going into May. So I just said to him, all right, okay, mate. I was just like, let me know close to the time and I'll free up some time. We can go for a drink. So I'm going to go for a drink with a guy who I used to bully in school. So yeah, like I said, guys, I knew this one wasn't going to be long, but I thought, you know, the people that really needed a fill of my voice should get that fill, you know. And I haven't felt right. I haven't felt right since like September with this fucking throat. Like, and I got two scratch cards by here. So fingers crossed I win £250,000. I'll go into work tomorrow and quit, and then I'll just like build a podcast studio and I can do this full time. And I'll pay people like money to come, so then they have to turn up. But yeah, so this has been the chat that's big and fat, guys. I'm really, really sorry that I couldn't make it any longer. But like again, I didn't have enough time to kind of plan it, and as you can tell, I waffled a lot in this one. But yeah, you know, that is life. Unfortunately, I haven't seen Dai's face for 2 months now, and we were meant to get it started back today, but he said that he couldn't because of a car issue or something. So hit him up on fucking Twitter and just be like, Dai, pull your fucking finger out, you mess. If you guys could just like kind of torment him until he comes back, because it's way easier with two people. Like, I promise you, like, having conversations is way easier than just like staring at a screen. All I'm staring at now is just like a waveform of my voice. And all I had walking into this was like, right, I'm going to talk about Liam Neeson, because I mean, it's massive. This is a thing in 2019. This is massive. Everybody's just fucking offended at everything and outraged. It's like a pastime. The internet's pastime is just being fucking outraged. And there's like no middle ground. It's like, I'm either really outraged or I'm like a comedian who just thinks like, fuck off. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sick of this shit. And that's it. I mean, you know, so this one's dropping on... can everybody tell me where they listen to this? Do they listen on YouTube? Do you listen on Apple Podcasts? Do you listen on SoundCloud? Or is there a place that you want me to put it that it's not yet? Because I have the RSS feed, I could essentially put it anywhere I want to now, but I don't want to really waste time and effort setting up like profiles and stuff if people aren't going to listen to it on those things. So like, I mean, I came across, like, Dai was on a podcast the other day. You can't turn up for his own, but you can turn up for somebody else's. And they are on like Stitcher and things like that, and I think Acast is another Android one. Let me know what you listen to the podcast on, and I will let you know. Well, I won't let you know. I'll just, like, if it turns out that somebody wants to listen to it on Acast, I will put it on Acast, and if somebody wants to listen to it on Stitcher or anything like that, then I'll put it up there as well. But right now it's on YouTube, SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts, and that's the way it's going to stay if people are okay with that. But yeah, go over to Dai on Twitter at Dai_ling_ping and just kind of fucking torment him to come over here. Like, just get him to fucking actually pull his finger out and commit to something in his life for more than 2 months. So yeah, I haven't seen it. Yeah, I don't think he's done a podcast since November, so it's coming, and it's February now. So yeah, it's been a long time. So let's get him back. Let's get him in for a chat. And then we can kind of make plans for the future. So thanks very much for your time, guys. I will see you next week. I'm going to play it like I'm on my own. So I might see if I can just get a bit more of a plan in place for the podcasts. But I mean, my aim for the solo ones is just to hit half hour if I can. And I think I'm coming up on half hour now. But just for you guys to get something. But I really, really want to spend this year developing this podcast into a formula that's what people want. I've really started listening to podcasts. Like, obviously, I've told people before, I listen to podcasts more than I listen to music these days. So on my commute, I currently have too many podcasts to listen to. So I came across one the other day called Dungeons and Daddies, and it's it's not like a BDSM thing, but it's kind of it's Freddie Wong. So I don't know if anybody's heard of Freddie Wong from Rocket Jump, but it's his podcast, and he sits around a table and he plays Dungeons and Dragons, right? Which sounds nerdy, but like I love shit like that anyway. But they just role play. They've all got a character, and they role play a Dungeons and Dragons on the podcast, and it's actually extremely fucking interesting. And he's also got another podcast called Story Break, which I listen to as well. And who else do I listen to? I listen to the Corridor Digital podcast as well. So I don't know if anybody knows Corridor Digital. Basically, I know all these guys because I used to do a lot of visual effects, and they were big on YouTube for doing the special effect, the visual effects at the time. So Corridor Cast is the Corridor Digital, they're like an effects house essentially now, but they release a video on YouTube every 2 weeks. Really high quality YouTube content. With smart kind of current and viral content, so I listen to that. That's really good if you're interested in that type of thing. And then this Dungeons and Daddies thing, I actually would highly recommend listening to it. It's a really weird out there type of thought process for a podcast, but it works and it just kind of flows. So yeah, I would advise after listening to me, obviously. But when I can't deliver the 2-hour podcast content that I like to do, I think I'll give you like a kind of a separate one to listen to just until I can get my fucking thing together. But yeah, so I really want to get a unique selling point for the podcast, which it doesn't have right now. So I want to kind of find that niche. I want to find that thing that everybody says, what is the big fat chat? And you could just say, it's this, you know? So yeah. Thanks very much for your time, guys. I have been Dan, and like I said, I'm going to go forward thinking I'll be on my own, so I might, throughout the week, just start planning things so that it's not so rushed and kind of all over the shop. So yeah, thanks very much for your time, guys. I've been Dan, and I'll catch you next time on the Big Fat Chat. Ta-da.